Yad HaShmona is a one-of-a-kind home to over 60 believing families and part of a larger community of Jewish followers of Christ that is growing in this country.
All there was a couple small wooden houses sort of behind those houses there.
Yeah.
Then you built out this street, the street behind it, the hilltop, and then all of that hill over there. How does it feel for you when you see how much this place has grown?
I'm glad. It's going to be even much, much more.
Arie, good to see you.
I went to meet Arie Bar David, one of the first founders of a very unique village established in 1971.
One of my daughters is living here, another here, nephews here, here, and this is my home.
Yad HaShmona is a Messianic village set in the Judean hills just outside of Jerusalem.
What is common for us is our faith. We are all believing that Yeshua is the living Son of our Father in heaven.
Today we look at the followers of Christ in Israel. It seems natural that this is the way things are, and they probably always have been this way. How different things were when you grew up.
We were the only family in Israel, and all our childhood, we got stones and curses.
Yeah.
If we were put a window,
Someone throws a rock through.
Many of the early immigrants to the state of Israel had fled Jewish persecution in Europe, which had culminated in the Holocaust of World War II. Unfortunately, at the time, there was a fearful and untrusting attitude towards Christianity and the followers of Christ. Nevertheless, Arie and his family, all Jewish followers of Christ, were determined to build a future here.
Jesus said, "Who will inherit the kingdom of heaven? Those who will stand in the suffering." Yeah. They were no believers, so the brothers, we always were talking that one day we would like to do something together.
Then you find this place called Yad HaShmona.
Now, I thought that I know the land of Israel, right? I never heard a place like this. There are only 8 people there. One man and his wife and 5 women. There was nothing here, nothing.
In the early 1970s, Arie and his brothers discovered this unique Christian Finnish community who had moved here for a very special reason.
What happened during Second World War? Already in 1934-5, Hitler, he decided to evacuate Germany from Jews. And some Jews left to Finland. 7 years later, during Second World War, Hitler demanded them back.
Yeah, and it wasn't to throw a party for them, it was to kill them.
He wanted to kill them, of course.
The Finnish prime minister at the time refused, despite Germany's threats of war.
The interior minister of Finland, secretly, he made a deal with the Germans. They will bring the Jews, telling them that they are brought to England. They started getting up on the ship. Suddenly, the accent of the sailor was to German. There was a war on the ship, and the ship left with 8 Jewish people to Germany, to Auschwitz, to the death camps. Now, for the Finnish people, they could not accept it. We have to do something to memorize them. And this is why this is called Yad HaShmona, Memory of the 8.
Memory of the 8, yeah.
I toured the village with Arie to get a glimpse of where the story began and how far things have come.
So Arie, this is one of the last of the original buildings that's still standing.
It was built for a few months because this will be replaced.
Yeah, that's been how long?
40, almost 48 years.
Not very characteristic building for Israel.
You know, the first block or wood house in Israel. We are passing through the wine press. From the first day, it started coming in our hearts that one day we would like to have a biblical garden. We have here all the 7 biblical trees that appears in the Bible.
Today, Yad HaShmona is a one-of-a-kind home to over 60 believing families and part of a larger community of Jewish followers of Christ that is growing in this country.
All there was a couple small wooden houses sort of behind those houses there.
Yeah.
Then you built out this street, the street behind it, the hilltop, and then all of that hill over there. How does it feel for you when you see how much this place has grown?
I'm glad. It's going to be even much, much more. One day when we will look at the moment that we were standing and we saw little Yad HaShmona, then we'll understand, because this is God's promise.
Shalom from Jerusalem. Today we have a great honor having one of the most known historians when it comes to the kibbutz life in Israel, Mr. Muki Tsur. Muki, a great honor having you. So first of all, we as Israeli, we assume that everybody knows what a kibbutz is. The kibbutz movement was a factor in the beginning of the 20th century, even before the establishment of the State of Israel. There were kibbutzim in Israel.
They were the beginning of the Jewish sovereignty in the country. The first kibbutz was created in 1910.
Wow.
It was created by 12 people. It was part of the dream of Jewish youth that we are not coming to Israel only to live, but to create something that will have meaning to humanity, a cooperative life and a community life. Everybody participant in all the decisions, dealing with the historical challenges of the Jewish revival.
The kibbutz was a tool to help immigration, to take people who are coming down from the boats. You need to build agriculture, you need to build factories, you need to build a state, and the kibbutz was a huge tool.
Groups of young people, very young people, built 52 kibbutzim at the time. When the knowledge of the assassination of the Jewish people arrived here
to the land, yeah.
It was a very dramatic time for these communities that their parents were in big disaster. How not to be paralyzed by it? How to be able to rebuild after this kind of thing and to build an economy that can have all this immigration. The kibbutz could absorb them and educate and giving them some kind of a target.
Wow. Let's talk about yourself a bit.
I was born in Jerusalem in 1938. At the age of 11, I decided that when I will grow up, I will go to a kibbutz. I fulfilled it in the age of 18, and since then, we are there from 1956. Today, 190,000 people living in kibbutzim. It's 40% of Israeli agriculture.
Wow.
And 8% of Israeli industry.
It's huge.
But this means to be challenges. How to challenge modernity on the one hand and to receive modernity on the other hand.
Not only that, I think that at that time, the young people who came to the kibbutz had the purpose to build a country.
Right.
And it was a common uniting factor. Today, the country is established.
But you know that Israel now, in the third generation of Israelis, it's now the beginning of the creation of Israeli society, is to ask yourself how to build it, how to build this community, Arabs, Jews, people who came from Europe, people who came from America, people who came from Africa. And in this challenge, the values and the question, how to create a community. We are only in the beginning.
Beautiful. What a great honor having you. As one of the builders of the State of Israel, thank you very much for being on our show. And to you, our friends, once again, pray for the peace of Jerusalem. Thank you, and a warm shalom from Jerusalem.
Hey, I'm Mati Shoshani, and thank you for watching the TBN Israel YouTube channel. We hope this video gave you greater understanding of Israel and her people. If you haven't already, subscribe to our channel and hit the notification bell so you never miss a video. We'd love to hear from you, so be sure to share what you've learned and ask your questions in comments below. And invite your friends to join the conversation.